My mom having my brother only, like being a single mother with my brother, is I don't want my brother to grow up to be a man who doesn't understand intimacy with women or feelings or in touch with like so many things, because everybody in that household is the same as me. Like even my sister will be like, okay, let's not touch. Like even our feet touching in bed, I'm like, you're doing too much. You should be okay to, drink and dress the way you want to dress without having to feel like you're gonna get like violated, especially in a very safe space like home or anything like that.
Yeah.
But man, we move. We're not ever going to let like other people's actions of not knowing how to interact with people be the determination of the rest of my life.
Yeah. Welcome to another episode of Bedtime, the podcast. And tonight I'm in bed with Hlehle. I'm so excited for this chat because after watching all her YouTubes, she's a seasoned podcaster.
Not
seasoned.
Not a
because,
okay, I guess I'll take it.
I'm like really just a baby in this podcast thing. And the only thing I like about it is, the TV rules don't apply.
Yes,
so we can just talk
for an hour longer.
Yeah.
And you know what? You're doing great. You have way more better production than me. So that's great for you.
Thank you on their behalf. But I thought it's about respect as well. I think you can't come into an industry that's doing so well and established and you've got so many great people inspiring you and you half-ass it. You know what I mean? Like,
I think I've noticed that with like maybe, no offense to your age or anything like that, but with the older people like who've been in the industry, you guys take it more seriously. And I'm trying to mentally get there. But I'm also still like, let's shoot. They will take whatever they take, like, the production. But I do appreciate like the seriousness of like putting in the work. And I mean, that's what I'm inspiring to. So you're doing great, girl.
Thank you
Don't even worry about it.
From you to me, I feel like that's a
No.
a great nod. But yeah, I think our conversation today, I'm looking forward to everything we're about. Where we're going to take it, because we have to relook at the definition of intimacy.
Yes,
I just want to be frank and say I've asked a few people and very sincerely, would you please mind engaging me on this topic? I'm new to podcasting. This is what I'd like. And as soon as I dropped the word intimacy, blue tick.
Oh my God,
and I had to, because they don't say that I'm not coming because of this. There could be many other reasons.
Yeah.
But the ones that have responded, it's like my publicist doesn't want me to do this, or it's not in line or whatever, which I completely respect. But all of us have intimate lives, and I don't know why we don't talk about it. What do you think?
I think, you know what the problem with intimacy? People always assume intimacy only means like penetration and sex, when it's really like such a broad spectrum of like how intimacy can be translated to what you prefer. And obviously now when we have to tap into sex and all those things, it is quite like such a bedroom situation just between the two people or three or more or whoever is in the room at the time.
Or yourself.
Yourself. And I think it's such a intimate activity to get to know your body like that I mean, a lot of people having to have the world tap into like, your sexual desires is embarrassing, like for other people. I don't know, man. Like, I get why. Maybe you got the blue ticks. I was also a bit hesitant. I was like, I'm not really like, I talk about sex. I like talking about sex and intimacy in a positive space, like of how you can get that positively. But I mean, there's just so many ways the conversation can go wrong.
Exactly. And I think it's very important. That's why I wanted a podcast, because then it's fine. You don't want to talk about it. But do you ever get to a space where you talk about it with anyone?
When you ask people about the intimacy, the word, what was your thinking process when it came to that? Like,
so I saw that because I've been doing a lot of relationship work, relationship content.
Okay.
When I say intimacy, maybe I've got guests or whatever, people answer sex.
I was like,
okay, I do feel like there's a gap because if I'm thinking I'm on the same page with everyone, what intimacy means, perhaps not. And then my little feasibility study, as you say, as older people take things seriously on the podcast, was that actually people don't know the distinction.
Yes.
And for
That's
me,
true.
it's a door into a deeper understanding of self and more richer relationships because sex is one topic under the umbrella of intimate lives. You have intimacy with your friends.
Yes.
And that's how people get long-term relationships and shorter-term relationships. And you have intimacy with yourself and how you show up in the relationship.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we show up depending on what our partner expects.
Exactly.
Then we have a gap in our own intimacy with ourselves.
For sure.
So I saw that. I was like, okay, perhaps people are not ready to have the conversation. I can start and then more people can talk. And couples, they get into bed and they want to talk about other couples.
Yeah. Couples love gossiping. About other couples.
It's one of my favorite things at the end of the day.
I get that.
You know?
I get that.
Yeah,
we're like, you are out chasing. Come on in.
You know? But then we've got our own business we don't talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the whole, also that's intimacy. Like being in bed with your partner and like you guys having to talk about, because it also takes away from maybe your relationship problems and you get to like nitpick other people's relationship problems. And oddly enough, that is a form of intimacy. That's something that you can share with your partner. And that's something maybe you guys get both excited to get into bed so that you can skim out about other people. And like really, intimacy is so broad. Like it is so broad. And I like that you're breaking the stigma of the one way of knowing intimacy because it really isn't just about sex.
No, it's not. And for me, it's exciting, right? Because now buzzwords like safe space, personal space are being said.
Yes.
I was in the queue when I was voting. There was a white couple with a baby and a stroller in front of us. And I went to go vote with my mom because it's a thing, right? Because it always takes me back home and the whole thing.
Yes.
So here they are in the queue with 100,000 other people in the queue. And they were asking me for personal space. They're like, we move forward, you guys are right here. Like, you know what my mom said? I was like, okay, why do you want personal pleasures in a public place? And I was like, okay. And I get it, right? Because personal space is a thing. And now I had to rework my thing. I'm like, oh, now I want a bed with strangers. You know, what's that about? And I guess if people know and understand themselves properly, they'll be able to ask, do you mind if I stay a bit further or whatever, without us feeling like, okay, is this person rejecting me? Or, you know, just that thing. That is in itself is an intimacy discussion. Being in a queue with other people, is there like the right way or the right amount of distance to leave between the two of you? Yeah.
I think when that is very interesting. Wait, were these people or white or...
They were.
Because now, why I'm asking that, I think there's a way to approach situations like that in a public space where you're like, no, me and my family are sick. Can you guys step a bit forward? Like, there should be a reason, because it is, your mom was right. Like, okay, this is a public space. But I do understand giving some sort of, like break in terms of intimacy. Because this is my experience. Like, men who find you attractive will stand right behind you and breathe in your flippin' ear just because they are interested in you. And that is a form of intimacy. And that should be like a conversation, reserved, and a consent thing. Like, can you just give me like maybe the room to wiggle around? I feel like if that was the approach where someone felt like you were in their personal space way too much, like where it was very intimate, but that other family was being weird because honestly, you there with your mom and they there with their family, like you're not the first, you're there to vote also. Like I'm here to make... It
was so uncanny because at this point, when they said this, we'd been in an hour in the queue for an hour, right?
Yeah.
So I imagine that perhaps he was irritated from when we arrived. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because by the way it was saying, it's like, every time we move forward, you move forward. I'm like, that's how a cue works, but okay.
That's how a lie works. Sir. Sorry, you must be standing in one position. That's crazy.
You see what I mean about intimacy, that it has such a personal meaning. And I'm interested in what it means to others.
Yes.
I can broaden my horizon, and maybe when somebody says that to me next time, I can peacefully say, thank you for telling me, and because it's out of respect.
It
you
really
want your
is.
Space.
No, fam. I think you are. I like that you're very self-aware in terms of like what type of intimacy I want to produce to people, because that is very important, because no one else receives intimacy the same way you do. I mean, my cousin Valencia, for example, like she's very like touchy-feely. Let me give you a hug. Let me, and that overwhelms me because I'm not a very like affectionate, like intimate person. And I mean, we've figured it out. It's because of like our bringing ups and like there's so many things that go into it. But with that being said, like I do appreciate people communicating. Like, would you like a hug? Like then I'm like, oh yeah, sure. Preferably, like now when I meet people the first time, a handshake is enough. And there are people who are like, come on, I'm a hug
Bring
person.
it in. Okay,
and I'm
I
like,
did that.
am I though?
Okay, note to self. I did that.
Yeah. So the first interaction I have with people is never to invade like their personal space or anything like that. I feel like a handshake is professional enough, even though it's a white way, but like it's professional enough to be like, okay, cool. Then the person will be like, and then you can reject or be like, I personally don't like hugs from strangers. Like I'm just like, what am I? How am I going to do this thing? So like again, like I'm saying, like it is an important conversation to have so that people can practice consent too. Because once you know what intimacy is outside of just sex, then you can have the conversation about consent outside of sex also. Then it's easier to implement that even in sex. Because now you know the consensual conversations to have with people.
Yeah, the consent conversation should always be open, especially in the relationship.
Yeah.
And I like that what you are saying about you not being a hugger and tying it back to the upbringing, because I also have had to actively be like a warmer mom and a warmer friend and a warmer wife because my mom was not. I mean, she gives like my sister and I call them the bro hugs, because it's like the shoulder tap.
Oh yeah.
And then the hand is limp. I love her to bits, and of course we love each other. But the whole affection thing is not her vibe.
Yes,
you understand, and obviously she's got her upbringing that comes in that also played a part in that.
For sure.
And then now coming to show up like in a relationship, so. I would be like, I would like the warmth, so I would give it overly so. But then having to learn that there are others who actually don't prefer hugs.
Yes.
You understand? So now that's like, you constantly have to remind yourself that it's not from their point of view. You must ask if it's okay. And that extends to children, I learned. The way we just grab and kiss babies.
Guys, touching pregnant people's bellies, kissing random babies, like it's just come on, like it's skin to skin. And I think people have lost, I guess also, you know what, Sne? I mean, I'm gonna talk from a Black household and also from a Black point of view. I feel like intimacy in Black households is just another form of like greeting. That's why I was saying the handshake thing is such a white people thing, which I personally prefer. Because like when you go home and that you don't know, he's and pulls and you're like, I don't know where your mouth has been. So I mean, that's an ongoing intimate, like a form of greeting for women in households of like with aunts and whatnot. There's always a kiss, never a hug, never like a shake or anything
and
like
a
that.
Kiss is a few levels in, right?
We're like literally like mwah, mwah. Then you're kissing every other person. And I understand now there's like certain rules that have been created. And Yani, like, don't kiss babies, don't kiss random people's babies, don't touch pregnant people's bellies
yeah.
without their consent. Unless they're like, oh, do you want to feel? Then you can do that.
So you let them take the lead. It's very interesting because, especially to me, because I grew up yearning for it. And then I overcompensated for not having it. Only to come to a place where it's okay and not okay at the same time. So
I think you and Valencia are the style.
We're from two extremes, you know, like not having it. And then, you know, because I missed it, I want it now. It's but there was an era, I think in my 20s, nobody cared about personal space and all of that. But now there's that conversation. I love what COVID has done, giving us the language to talk about those things, because if I'm not in a mental space of being okay, standing too close is a violation of what I deem appropriate.
And also just do it for yourself, because, you know, you don't know how the person is going to react to that. Someone could be like, trigger warning, be like, oh, you sexually don't me. And that was not your intention. Maybe that's what you know how to, like, you know, greet someone, hugging them and kissing them on the cheek, where someone else might not appreciate that. And that's the only point of view they have of you now, that you invaded their personal space. As much as maybe that's something you want, just do it for yourself too, because you don't know what that other person is feeling and how they are taking it. Just avoiding those octeta, like, just don't do it unless, like, you ask, and that's something that can be done to whatever.
Yeah, to be conservative with body contact.
I want to touch on you saying that you came from, like, not an intimate home and now, like, you really want to do that.
Yeah, like, well, I went through a phase, so now I'm okay, which, you know, either or.
Yeah.
But I went through a phase of, I do want to have affection as a human being, because I feel like there's just so much love in here.
Yeah.
And it needs to come out. And somehow words are not always adequate.
Do you think that's the lack of, and that's why you wanted to
I actually haven't sat to think about it. All I know is I would like to express, and with the expression of me, of how I feel about you, the words can never get there.
They're not enough.
And I feel like the hug helps me. It puts a full stop on what I wanted to say.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Interesting. So you're a hugger. That's why you're such a hugger. So it's an
exclamation or a full stop to say, I mean it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Like, I'm not fighting with you. Like, oh.
Yes, we are good. Me and you are good.
Yeah.
The reassurance.
Yeah.
So I know you know, I do it a lot with the boys in the house.
Yeah.
And watching, you know, Wooty is now 22. So that contact has minimized. The tweens.
Is that something he asked for, or is that something you assumed?
I took his lead, because there was a period when he was in school, he'd come from school, and that would be the first natural thing.
Okay.
And then those things became less. I've seen he's home, I'm like, hi, boy. Then he'd hang out by the door.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, I'm asking for it without asking for it.
Okay.
Then I took his lead. So now it's maybe big things, like we're celebrating huge things. Then it'll be like I'll really be close.
Interesting.
And then the tweens, the teen and the tween, I can see the tween wanting to move a little bit away, but he still catches himself in being a child and hugging. I love you, mommy.
Yeah.
Like he's gotten him something
That's
nice.
Cute, yeah.
But I can actively see moments where that's not what he prefers.
Yeah.
So it's just equipping him with the language to say, not right now, mom.
Oh,
which
that's
I want to do that.
Yeah.
And then the 14-year-old, I'm going for fist pumps, because I've heard what he says to his brothers when they're in his personal space. He's very confident and he tells them.
Okay.
So it's the 9-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, I had a natural expectation that because they are brothers, I recently have a 2-year-old, that the 9 and the 2-year-old, they would, you know, because they are closer in gap.
Yes. So
I can't remember what the 2-year-old was doing. So I asked, I'm like, oh, why don't you just pull him and get him here? And do you know that he got stuck there and he was like, I can't do it, Fila. I'm too nervous. You understand? So me having the expectation that it's just your brother, man, just bring him here.
Yeah.
Because I was changing an EP or something. So there are those things that now I'm in touch with, which before I wasn't.
Yeah.
And so I'm letting the boys lead me. And
to what type of intimacy they want from their mother.
Yes. But if you left it up to me, we'd hug the whole day.
Time. I mean,
we'd hug for 30 seconds. You understand?
Yeah. Do you talk to them?
Yeah,
hey, do you want to a hug once in a while?
Well, we haven't spoken about the hug in particular, but we do talk about touching and how,
I like
so
that.
we have the conversations
I
often.
like that. Okay, cool. No, I'm only asking because, I mean, I didn't grow up with affectionate parents like that. Like everything is like almost like a suggestion. Like
you want to or not? That's fine.
You want a hug? Then I'm like, nah, we don't do that. This is weird. And I know that it's translated now into my personal, I like to think that I'm a very affectionate person in terms of like my actions, the things I will do for you, I will encourage you. And for me, that's enough. Like,
so it's the affection with minus the touch.
Yes.
That's your level of intimacy.
Yes, that's my level of intimacy as far I will help you. You know, I will figure it out for you. But do not give me a hug after I figure it out for you. Like, don't do that. Like, ever. And you know what? It translated so much even in my last relationship where my ex used to say, like, I'm such a ibuda, like, I'm such a guy. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not a guy. Like, but it's just that, like, my love languages are like words, acts of service and all these other things, not the intimacy. And I have recently to start teach myself to be more like intimate with people. I am more intimate with like my relationship partners. Like if my romantic partners, that's the word. My romantic partners, I am more intimate in that sense. But now you're in a time limit, like time to cut it out somewhere, like stop. You know, the people like cuddling me the whole night. I'm like, cuddle me for an hour and then let me go. After that, let's sleep separately.
Is it because it's sweaty and clammy or it's just not a preference? Because you're sleeping, so you're not really thinking about personal space.
I think that's exactly like what I'm working through it in therapy, where that is coming from. Because I mean, for me to notice that it came from my parents, it's all from therapy.
Awakening.
But also like my weird relationship with intimacy and sex and, you know, trigger warning, like being sexually violated. So I don't want anyone in my personal space unless I'm consenting them into my personal space.
You want to be the one that leads them there.
Yeah. And the unfortunate thing, when that thing has been, you know, imposed on you, you try to gain back your power in terms of intimacy in any other way, whether it's creating rules of like, please don't hug me, because you're trying to prevent that thing that happened to you again. Yeah. So, I mean, those are things that don't just exist only by like here. You need to go do the work also like in therapy and talk about that, because some people's intentions are not like terrible. For example, like me crying and then Valencia wanting to hug me to be like, it's going to be okay. And my first reaction is that like, don't touch me or anything like that. It is quite like side-eye, because why can't you embrace someone trying to like be like, oh man, like it's going to be okay? Because to be truthful with you, when that happens, when I embrace a hug or anything, I do enjoy it. I'm like, oh, I get why people like this thing. Like I get the feeling, the hormones and everything else, but it's just like, I just gotta practice a little bit. I just need to get used to it. So that was my interest of like asking like how you having those conversations, because also with my mom having my brother only, like being a single mother with my brother, is I don't want my brother to grow up to be a man who doesn't understand intimacy with women or feelings or in touch with like so many things, because everybody in that household is the same as me. Like even my sister will be like, okay, let's not touch. Like even our feet touching in bed, I'm like, you're doing too much. I promise you. I'm like, you're doing way too much.
You don't do toesies with your sister?
Don't touch.
Okay, I'm starting to feel weird now.
You and your sister playing footsie.
I mean,
no. Why are her clammy toes touching my clammy toes? But I get it. Like sometimes she'll like cuddle me, and I'll give her the 30 minutes to like cuddle me. Then I'm like, thanks.
Okay.
That's enough. Yeah.
I'm upset that the violation happened to you.
Of course.
And it sort of makes you the hypervigilance, of course. And more than that, sort of now you have to redefine what's okay, because the violation happened probably in a setting where you thought it was okay.
Ooh, girl. If I could tell you, I'm sorry to constantly bring her up, Valencia, because I mean, I met her through you.
Of course.
And you guys might see her in other episodes or in my podcast.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when that happened, she was around, and the way she took care of me, and that's why I will always love that girl. And the way she took care of me and assured me that, that shit was weird, was so beautiful. I mean, fortunate for me, nothing drastic happened in that environment. But whatever did happen was more enough to trigger me for the rest of my days of my life, and her validation and talking to me and all these years made me feel so comfortable and made me feel like I wasn't the one who was wrong, the other person was, because in that situation it's so easy to make yourself I should have dressed a bit more. Maybe I should have never drank a bit too much. You should be okay to, drink and dress the way you want to dress without having to feel like you're gonna get violated, especially in a very safe space like home or anything like that.
Yeah.
But man, we move. We're not ever going to let other people's actions of not knowing how to interact with people be the determination of the rest of my life.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I was like, what? I'm never giving this man that much power. It's so boring.
You see, you touch on something I love, which is the empowerment element of talk about it so you can know where your limits are.
For sure.
We spoke about looking at yourself naked so you can know I actually don't prefer you touching me here, or this is too much or whatever, but you won't have those definitions if you don't prioritize personal intimacy. And I'm coming, from a point of wellness more than anything.
Yes.
I want us to live more fulfilling lives.
Yes. Yes.
Because we've been looked at as the race that's materialistic, that's, because we're out there getting whatever, which we should do anything we want.
Yeah, I was about to say, what's wrong with that, being materialistic?
What's wrong with that? But more than that, I want us to be full inside as well.
Yes,
And that's from questioning yourself.
Yes.
Our choices.
Yes.
And, processing also the environments under which we live. And for me, continuing to have if you speak, say, consent is an always open discussion.
Yes.
It's never close to say you have blanket consent.
Yes.
Somebody actually did make a TikTok about it. I don't know if the TikTok is still there, that she's my wife, so I have blanket permission. I'm like, you, sir, should not be married.
No.
In my view.
No.
And yes, she could prefer that sometimes there's women who do prefer that I'm giving myself over to my husband, and that's okay. So I wouldn't be able to speak on her, but the determination that it's a blanket discussion, for me, I have an issue with that.
I have an issue with that because it's okay. Referring to that now, it's a different conversation if Nyani, the wife, gives him blanket, they can do whatever and she's fine with it. And that's a conversation that they had. Because I'm sure he's not coming from a place of
violation
because he's, but gay, these things still happen.
Just always check if I'm okay. The bare minimum needs to always exist.
My problem with him is I need men to shut up, to say less things. Because why the hell would he say that to the internet? I mean, it's fine for you to know that you have that in your relationship, but now don't say it on the internet because what that does, it creates a very violent conversation with the other men watching things, and they think it's okay to have that in their relationship when they haven't even had the conversations with their wife. It's a different thing if he was like, I had a conversation with my wife and the intimacy of our relationship is that it's a blanket one, where we can do whatever we want. It's consensual, whatever. But now to be like, look, it's a blanket. No. Shut up. Like, put down that TikTok, you grown-ass man.
What are you doing?
What are you doing? Stop these discussions on the internet. That's
but
crazy.
I've learned to think in my little time working with different parts of people talking about their marriages, relationships, that sometimes people often present a front.
Yes.
Because of other work that they have going on, they have to appear to have it together. And one of the things I do want to do when I get to the solo translation of this is to talk about my own things. I think being young and having my mom model wifehood, whatever the English word is for being a wife. I had
wife
questions.
Material.
I had questions back then. We are yet to sit. I mean, she knows. I've said to her, there are things I want to talk to you about. I feel like I need to be ready.
Okay.
So maybe we'll do an episode about it. I don't know.
Is your mom married?
My mom is now widowed, but she only had one man. And that was my dad. So, but there are now those kind of things that are coming up because if you want to know about yourself, a lot, like get married or be with somebody that really wants to be with you, but you make it difficult for them.
Oh my God.
That is going to be a mirror.
Getting married part.
But long-term partners that whatever you do, because sometimes we self-sabotage, you're like, maybe he'll break up with me. And this comes like, I'm not going anywhere. But here's the mirror. This is what you are doing to us. And you haven't obviously gotten to a place of doing the work on personal so you can show up better because they love you. Like you've treated them like dirt and they're still here.
Relatable,
I'm telling you, you're like, I thought he would have gone by now because usually that's how it goes with my story. And this person's like, no, take responsibility because you're going to be a dope-ass person when you fix this part.
Does your partner call you out like, hey, hey,
like, and I love him for it because I feel like we've been together the longest because he's done that. I feel like having like a personality that's more perceived as a strong personality. I don't know what that is, but it forces. So
do you feel like you're the one in the relationship who has a strong personality? You the get it going, and then he's the relax, chill.
I think a bit of both, depends on what it is. Because we have a 7-year gap. So these things he definitely leads better on. He's more put together. He's a model adult. You know when you think about
he's a grown up. He's a grown up, and I'm just the child.
I love that for him so much because I get to opt out on some days. Like I don't want to wake up and face my life.
I'm just a baby,
and I think I can do that because he's there.
Like
he is so. Like when I grow up, I want to be like you.
I want that type of relationship. Like, I want to be a baby.
I'll be watching these kids wilding, and he'll say one sentence, and everybody will go back to their order.
Ooh, that's kind of hard.
Like, that's kind of hard. This like. Anyway, that's
you want to talk about? I can talk about men all day. I love me talk about men. I don't want to put him on blast.
He said to me, "Please don't make me the story." So please, love.
Yes, okay.
Sorry. That can be edited out. But one of the things that he's shown me that I do a lot is my difficult relationship with vulnerability. And it is an intimacy discussion. So I want to do a solo series about that because I've been on a journey for a few. And I feel like I've melted a lot.
Really?
Like I was like ice queen. If I take my siblings, because those are my first relationships, right?
Yes.
So both sides, I'm the first grandchild as well. So I feel like my parents were under that pressure to say, okay, we must get it right. So now they are so wanting to instill in me whatever maybe they didn't have or whatever, that I experienced parentification early. So now how did I show up? More responsible, more, and as a result, my siblings are all closer, and I'm the outlier.
Oh, I'm sorry. That sucks.
I know, but I think I'm okay with it now because I am trying to repair it. So I'll be more listening and more understanding. I'll stand with them drinking, and before I couldn't. I knew they drank, and I could have alcohol there. They drink it there. I drink it this side because of the parentification thing. Because they struggled to drink in front of our parents, and for a long time I did. I mean, my mom would visit, and I would feel like, maybe I'll put them in a mug. Eventually, I'm like, this is my house, bruh.
I pay the bond.
You understand? So now those things are coming down, and it's a process, and I want to get there with them.
Yeah.
But it's a journey.
I wish like lastborns or people who are not firstborns can understand like the type of pressures that our parents put on the firstborns that can actually even affect like something like intimacy, because like you're so much under pressure. You have to be the example child. There's no room for mistakes, and when you are raised to be like that, a lot of the times like you are going to be very strict with yourself and the people around you, and the first person that you'll ever be strict with is your siblings. And unfortunately, maybe they'll get a better version of your parents. And I heard this quote once that says, as siblings, we all have different parents.
Hundreds.
We may have the same parent, but we all have, like, your parent is different to your sisters, to your other brothers, to
100%.
Completely different. So I'm so sad you went through that. I can understand that as a firstborn, being put in the pressures of like having to do, and maybe that's where also my maybe I should go to therapy for that too. Maybe that's where the lack of my
game changer.
It really is, guys. Like I mean, I think maybe that's where also my intimacy levels can come from, is the pressures of being like a firstborn and having to get everything right, which makes me. My anxiety is peak because I'm trying to get everything right. But the one thing I did for myself, I became a rebellious firstborn. I was like, you know what? I'll be the first for everything. I set the rules. First tattoo, first piercing, first stone, first drink, first everything. I was like, even the bad things, let me be the first. I'll do it.
That is so funny. Because I got told a story like now recently. My one sister was like, you. On your 18th birthday, we went out for dinner for your birthday. Did you not tell the waiter, glass of wine?
Good shots. Like my good shot.
So she's reminding me, everybody was looking, and you were like, glass of wine, please.
Yeah.
I've arrived.
Yeah.
Where? You guys said I must arrive first before I drink.
Yeah.
So yeah, things like that. I also first tattoo, a lot of things rebellious wise, because I just wanted to undo Yes. I felt like it was harsh, because I feel like you can tell your kids to be careful.
Yes.
And leave sort of like, room for them to find themselves. But it felt like orders, man.
Yes.
Be like this.
Period. Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
And that's the work of therapy for me to come here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's talk about mental health and intimacy. What do you think about that?
Wellness and intimacy. So I feel strongly, that the intimacy discussion is a wellness discussion.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I want to ask, like, just quickly before we start the conversation, so I know how I'm having this conversation with you. Are there any like mental wellness things that you struggle with? Have you gone on like medication? And I know for a fact you've been to therapy. Just how well. What's the word? Self-aware that you are. So take me through that journey and make me understand.
So my struggles were recent, by the way. The parentification I told you about has always made me be strict with myself, like you telling me. So I work for myself. Recently had a baby. He's 2. But postpartum.
Sorry, I just want to crack a joke about being pregnant. Isn't being pregnant like embarrassing? Like the world knows that you're having sex.
Stop it!
Now everyone knows that you have sex with the person that you're walking with.
Yes, evidence.
You're like, evidently.
Case in point.
I have sex.
No, I must tell you about it. Beautiful pregnancy and everything, and the delivery, whatever. But coming back, that was for me, knocked me for a 6. I'm grateful that I never had to go for medication, but getting myself acquainted with myself, the myself that's had a baby older in my perception, and not being able to carry on like my husband could. Luckily, he has a 9-to-5. Of course he could. And if I had a 9-to-5, perhaps I would have had the 6 months rest. And I didn't have to work because we've planned so well, right? But I felt like life was unfair. I'm now stuck.
Yes.
And I love the baby. I don't always like the baby.
Yes.
So, and that was hard for him because he was thinking, okay, he's just a child and wants his mom. And then I felt I'm just me and I need me to be able to give the child mom.
Be a good mom.
So I'd say easily the first year was the worst mental health wise.
I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Because I wanted to be a mother. Always wanted to be a mother, but I wanted to be a working mom.
Yeah.
And I couldn't work.
Yeah.
And I measure my self-worth according to output, which is a vulnerability struggle. So I saw myself as just barefoot pregnant. The one thing that I knew I didn't want when I was small. So that's the picture I had. Barefoot pregnant, dependent, useless, preggy brain, because obviously you forget things and you sleep a lot and whatever. So that picture, which is a beautiful picture, now that I'm well, I saw it as something ugly.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, referring back to that firstborn thing, I mean, I don't want to have kids.
Yeah.
I mean, for various other reasons. And I think the other reason could possibly be that, like, I don't picture myself as a mother. Yeah. I don't picture myself having kids and all those things. I mean, I'm also human, so I do leave a room, like a window for because you never know. Like your mind can change. I could get older. I could be like, actually, you know,
never and always.
Exactly.
Don't
so this children chat thing really gets me going because I don't know, man. Like, I don't get the point of having children. And I think it stems from this picture that you're painting. And also being very wary of like my mental health issues that sometimes I personally feel like I'm not fit enough to be a mother. And I think being a mother is a selfish act. Sorry, guys. But I do believe that being a mother is a selfish act because people sometimes have kids just so that they can feel better and have a purpose in life. And for me, it just feels like if I don't have purpose just for myself, having purpose for someone else is not going to be enough. And that's not, a strong foundation to want to have, kids. But I am still going to therapy. I am still working on myself. Like you're saying, it's a wellness journey. I don't know how I'm going to feel in a couple of years. And also just to get it like twisted, just because I say I don't want to have kids, I do think kids are cute.
Yes.
And I do love kids.
Like kids.
Yes, I do like kids.
People make like,
those niggas are cool, when they're not mine. But I can give them back to their parents. But having kids has never been my thing. I only asked about the mental health issue and that whole thing because downstairs we were speaking about like intimacy and sex and all these things. And the one thing, so I struggle with anxiety and depression. Trying to find the right words because my mom's like, stop owning it. She's like, because I'm like, she's like, it's not yours. It's something that I'm like, okay. So I'm trying to find the right words. So I struggle with anxiety and depression, which has led to, which also means, but I also have ADHD. And then all those things have triggered me having bipolar. So in like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I had to go on pills like mood stabilizers, antidepressants, Concerta for my ADHD. So I was on multiple pills to help me manage my mental health. And at the time, like I was in a very committed relationship and I had noticed that on top of that, being on a contraceptive as a woman who doesn't want to have kids, I had noticed that it had, kind of worked with my libido to go down. And, when you are going through that process of like making yourself feel better, and intimacy is such an important factor in a relationship, and you don't flipping feel like it, and it's not because you don't think the other person is attractive or you don't want to, engage in whatever they're doing. It's just that your body itself, it's like, it's just like, no, like there's just too much happening internally for me to try to be intimate with whatever. And on top of that, it doesn't hurt or it doesn't help the fact that I'm already like intimacies are very like, you know, like it just went clean gone for, I think it was about like 3 months. I just couldn't like fathom the idea of like being intimate with someone. And that's when I knew, but you know what, like getting to my next relationship, I need to start at therapy first and work on myself and my intimacy and whatnot, because I can see how those things are important in a relationship. Because as much as I'm not a very intimate person, there are times where I would like some intimacy. Like today, it's cold. I'd like to be held today. But it's not like my first preference of intimacy. Acts of service, do things for me, buy me things, make me feel special. Then I like that type of intimacy.
That must have been tough. I'm picturing it because, you know, we do get our cycles, and that 1 week in the month, you like, no one, don't like anybody.
Imagine
like
that for 3 months. Like the first 2 days of your period, without the cramps, like how you just feel like snacks and just like for 3 months straight. And it's not just the 3 months. The 3 months I started getting better. Then I started removing certain pills out of, because I mean, I don't want to be dependent. And that has its own struggles and battles. And then it's another like maybe 6 months to a year of just trying to regulate and like starting to feel better. And on top of that, like these pills and these things are making you gain weight. And, you know, now you don't feel sex. It's just like all these added on things about like intimacy. And then then get your self-esteem is another issue. Then it will go bottom from there.
I mean, I don't want to pry whatever, but do you think that's what led to you no longer wanting the relationship?
No. I don't think so. I mean, obviously, there's like other like factors
that were there already.
Oh, that were there already, of course. Like, but all I'm trying to say is that like it is very important to like first work on yourself before inviting anybody into intimacy and into a relationship with you. And like also kind of like yourself, and also work on your self-esteem, like maybe touch yourself a little bit, like have sex with yourself once in a while.
I'm such an advocate for that.
You know, find other ways to be intimate without needing the other person, and then everything else after that happens like so naturally. So that was like a very good lesson for me in terms of like going into a new relationship forward. I was like, okay, I know the places that I need to work on. So right now, like, I'm just fine with me, myself, and Bob, which is my sex toy.
Wow. Love it, Bob. Okay. Bob. What color is Bob? Do I want to know?
She's a cute, small, petite,
Bob
pink
is a she.
girl.
Love it. I that's where I want to, like that discussion, you're wrapping it up nicely by saying that mental health also contributes to intimacy. But because you went through it like yourself, I want you to now tell us what kind of support a person like that would appreciate if you are in a relationship with them, because it's probably the one thing you needed that wasn't there.
Yeah. I think I would like some patience. I would also like more of like acts of service, like I said.
I think your stuff, make sure you are comfortable.
Yeah, you know, when you set the mood for me, like maybe later on I'm like, maybe I'll give you a little bit of this nanny.
You know what I mean?
You know?
Yeah.
So it's just small things like that. Now, because I'm a firstborn and I'm so used to making other people's lives easier, I'd love for my life to be easier, which makes intimacy easier for me, because once you make like my environment easier and all these things, like, you know, the only thing that I need to show up for is like my feminine side and being like sexy and being whatever. So, I mean, that's the type of thing I would like in my next relationship, to be like a small little baby, be taken care of, and then I just show up for my partner.
You know, I want that for you, ne? whatever's on the menu that you can order and pick this and pick this and pick this, I feel like if you can curate it, of course, maybe you'll get like 70, 80%. But in my next lifetime, that if I could do that for people, I would, because as unique as we all are our needs. And I think partners come with a blanket understanding of relationships sometimes.
Yes.
And I know we are partners as well. So even our minds need to, have them in mind when we're thinking about the relationship. But Hlehle, how rich was this chat? Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This is so fun. I'm going to sit here all day. You should have called it pillow talk. So they're like,
you know what I mean? Yes.
So cute.
No, I'm calling them pillow talkers because I wish one of them can be in bed with me.
You are so smart. You are so brilliant. That's so good.
Much.
That's
Thank
so
you.
good.
And to all you pillow talkers, that was Hlehle Lupindo. And she's exiting. Thank you so much for your time, Mama. That was lovely.
Thank you for having me.
That was so
beautiful
deep.
Home, beautiful members.
Thank you so much. Oh, hey. They were gentle, but we were over 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
Today she was nice.
Okay.
Yeah. No, somebody got a in your face yesterday. 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
I'm joking. I think Nikita wants a picture.
Is this going on YouTube?
Only YouTube. Well, and
don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Comment down below more topics you would like to see from bedtime stories. And comment down below if you want me back, because period, I'm that girl.
Listen.
And subscribe. If you're one of my subscribers and you're on this YouTube channel and you don't subscribe, I'll stop posting for 6 months.
I feel like I should pay you for that. Because that's the one thing in everything I've been doing was not rolling off my tongue. Like and subscribe. I was like, I'm not going to be able to do that. So I was actually going to have a conversation with him and say, please put it there.
We'll put
because I'm not saying that.
And then done.
I think it's the prestige of being a TV person.
I get you.
Now you're begging. No, those numbers are not there. They're their numbers. Now you're on your own.
That's true.
You know?
That's
so
true.
I like that for you.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that.
Got you.
That I want.
Got you.
Yeah.